Hi, welcome back to our channel. And for those that don't know me, I'm Marvin Te. I'm an animator, creative director, and I own a motion design studio. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to avoid client changes. Before we begin, let me be clear. Client changes aren't really bad. And in most cases, client changes improves our project. If we just have an open mind and let go of our creative insecurities, then we'll realize that these changes or revisions are in fact beneficial to the project. Because sometimes when we do the project, we're so close to it. We make it day in, day out, and we're just biased to what we make. And it's always beneficial to the project to have a different set of eyes to check on the project. And unless there's a technology where the client's brain is directly connected to our brain as a creative, so the client and the creative are their brain are connected. Unless that technology is invented, changes or revisions will not be fully eliminated. What we can do at best is minimize the changes, to have processes in place, to have different methods in place to minimize changes. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. So to minimize changes, it would really boil down to this. You need to manage the client's expectation. So let us just say that the client is expecting a blue design and what you have given the client is a yellow design. So of course, the client will not be happy with what he or she is seeing, because that is not what the client is expecting. And you can expect that there will be a long list of changes. That is an oversimplification of this, but the basic concept still applies. Because once you know what the client is expecting, you will have this some sort of checklist. And once you have this checklist, it's easier for you to look at your project or to look at what you are doing and to check it if it matches the client's expectation. If you don't know what the client is expecting, it's like you're designing in the dark, right? And if you're designing in the dark, it's so hard to move forward. So, how do you know what the client is expecting? The answer to that question is to ask questions. So, at the start, before you even begin designing, before you even begin animating or start creating, you need to ask questions to your client. You need to ask high-level questions like, why do you need a video in the first place? Or what's the motivation behind this initiative? What's the motivation behind this project? What does success look like to you? And aside from high-level questions, you also need to ask low-level questions like, when is this video needed? Do you need a voiceover? Do you need characters for this video, or typography animation? So a part of managing the client's expectation is to explain the creative process, because our clients, they're not creatives, and part of our responsibility, aside from designing that solves their problem, is to explain the creative process to our clients. And one example for that is the storyboard. So at the very start of the project, even before we begin, I always explain to every client that the storyboard is just composed of draft drawings. This is not the final look and feel. And failure to explain that at the start would be a mess, right? If I send the storyboard, it's composed of draft drawings, and I didn't explain that at the start, the client's expectation is different, right? By explaining the process to the client, that the storyboard would only convey the flow. This is not the final look and feel. It would only convey the flow, the idea. by explaining that to the client, I am sort of managing the client's expectation. So, what if you encounter a problem along the way in the production? What do? You need to update your client. Updating the client is sort of recalibrating the client's expectation. So, for example, you encounter a technical problem. So, what do? You inform the client, you update the client. So, before the next update, you could say something like this: Client, I'm sorry, we have encountered a technical problem. So you would expect some delays, but this what you want, the option A or option B, can't anymore be delivered by this time. But if we need to deliver it by this time, we could go with option C. If you want to go with option A or option B, we would need an extension of 1 week. I'm sorry for any inconvenience this may have caused. Let me know how you would proceed. And I have to tell you, based from my experience, if I phrase it like that, if that is the tone of my email, 100% of my clients, 100% of them never got angry with me because we encountered a technical problem. Because human as we are, right, we know that something could really go wrong. And if you just explain it to the client, they would certainly understand that. If you explain it in a professional way, they would understand it. And 100% of my client, and that is 100% literally, it's not figuratively. Literally 100% of my client never got angry with me because I updated them on a certain technical problem that we encountered. And their response is always, thank you for the transparency. I appreciate the update. Let's go with option A or option B or option C. So because I informed the client ahead of the update time and there is a problem, I already managed the expectation. I have recalibrated the client's expectation. So what if you suddenly had an idea at the middle of the project that wasn't in the original plan? What do? Again, you need to update the client. You could send an email or on the call, you say something like this: Client, I suddenly had a great idea. I believe this would tell your this would make the message even more clear to your audience. And most often than not, based on my experience, if you present a new idea to the client, most likely it's gonna be rejected. I think it's gonna be 80-20. 80% it's gonna be rejected, 20% they're gonna go with your new idea. So what do? Do you just let that idea fly? I have a tip for you. Just in case you really, really want to try that idea, what we do at the studio is we first do what the client is expecting. For example, option A, or this kind of sequence. There's an animation sequence that the client is expecting. So we do that. And if I can't really sleep because I really want to try this idea, I believe it's going to benefit the project. Once we have finished the original plan, we're going to do an option B. We're going to animate a different sequence, option B. And then in the next update, I'm gonna present both to the client. So my email or during the call, it's gonna have this tone or in these lines. Client, this is our update. But while doing this update, I've realized that I suddenly had an idea that I think would fit perfectly for your project. So we have made it. And I'm gonna send the option B. And most often than not, if you do it like that, a bigger percentage, a bigger chance that the client would see your vision and they would go with your idea. So if you're just gonna inform the client without showing the client, 80% they're going to reject it, 20% they're gonna go with your idea. But if you're gonna present them two options, one option is the original plan and the second option is your new idea and you think it's really a good idea, ma- about 80% they're gonna now go with the new idea, and maybe 20% they're going to go with still with the original idea. And that is a little bit more risky for you and more expensive, because you need to do two things instead of one. But you really have to think about the idea, if the idea is worth all this trouble. If you can manage the client's expectation, you can expect that the client revisions or changes would significantly drop. Again, because the client's mind and our mind as a creative, they're not one mind, right? We still need a back and forth communication, and therefore changes are still expected. But if you are going to manage the client's expectation, those changes would be minimized. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something today. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you liked our content, please subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to level up your skills, we also teach on Skillshare and Udemy. We have drawing classes and animation classes, which I will leave the links in the description below. And lastly, we have a Patreon page, and for $5 a month, you get access to all of our project files that we post there monthly. That's it for me. That's it for this episode. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching. And I hope to see you on the next video.